So in the last video, you saw me try to do a Rosepath motif using a poinsettia, which was in red. Originally, I thought it was a snowflake. We kind of went along, and if you recall, my warp was basically 16.2. My weft was 16.2 as well, but the pattern thread is 8.2. And the pattern thread versus the 16.2 works very, very well. The problem is that I wanted to make face cloths, and I think I'm going to have to give up the idea of making face cloths because the 16.2 warp and weft is so thin, it's almost like gauzy, gauze-like, and see-through, so I don't think it's going to work very well, unfortunately, for face cloths. But the warp is great for me to practice different motifs. So at this point here, I thought, well, since the last motif I made was a single color, let's try something with two different colors. So I decided to do a flower variety. Now in the last video, I figured out very quickly that if you recall, in one of the earlier videos we talked about that when there's an actual draft, and this draft came out of 8 shaft patterns here, okay? And if we go to, let's see here, which is the one that I'm doing here. So if we go to this one here, all right, so I'm trying to do 109 this time around, okay? So in 109, if you actually look at all their patterns here, they've got circles. If the circles indicates that the actual shed basically is, or the harness, basically when you're pulling the lever or the treadle, it's going to go up. And if it does that, then that means you're going to see this pattern as you weave it along. What I didn't realize, for whatever reason, is that the new loom that I have, when I'm pulling the levers, I thought my harnesses were going up, but they're actually going down. And so as a result, in my last video, I was seeing everything backwards, right? So I saw the back side of everything, and the front side was underneath, which again caused me, I don't like that. I like to see exactly what I'm actually weaving. So what I did in my last video is that everywhere that there was a space, basically for the, that there was not a circle, it's really an X, which indicates that the harness is sinking, and I just replaced that and then did the changes accordingly, and that way I would be able to see exactly what that is. So in this particular pattern here, I made it in large again, okay? So we know the threading is the same as last time, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 8, 1 down here, and then 8 all the way to 2, okay? I've put in all the X's in that exact same pattern where all the O's were not, okay? So this time there are 13 different combinations. So combination 1 and 2 are your tabby, and then 3 to 13 basically are the different parts for the pattern, okay? So when I actually do it, okay, if we look at it here, let's see if I've got a paper that's going to work, okay? And we've done this before in various videos, right? So for example, in the first one here, we're starting off with the pattern here, number 1. It's telling me that it should only be number 6, so only 6 is colored in, and so forth. So remember basically the instructions for the 8 shaft of saying that you need to go from top to bottom, and because all of a sudden I was using the sinking sheds instead of rising sheds, I thought, you know what, that means that everything's got to flip the instructions in the 8 shaft book, but actually I'm incorrect about that. So you still need to go from top to bottom, because I realized that when you actually weave, right, you're throwing your shuttle, you know, right here, and then the next shuttle's here, and you're working your way up this way along, you know, along your loom, okay? So whatever's down here is what you're going to start weaving first. So you do still want to go from bottom to top. Now let's say though that I have, for example, a design that I wanted to have upside down, like in this case here. I still need, if I'm going to, if I want to take this one here, all I would need to do is literally take the book, do this, and flip it, okay? And I still go from bottom to top, and it would give me an upside down kind of format. So it's easy enough to do using the book once you actually have the actual the actual pattern there. But it is something that when I actually ended up, if you look here, I ended up coloring out basically all the different colors for the, you know, the parts of the flower and the parts of the stem there with the red and the green and so forth. And remember, the 1 and 2 were my tabbies that I always put in for myself. But I put this one basically as being the upright one. Okay, I should start from the top to the bottom. But again, we don't weave going downwards. We weave going, you know, forwards this way. So it is important to keep that in mind when you are actually doing the Rosepath pattern. Now in this case here, I'm going to have 2 different colors. They're not going to intersect. I still don't know how to do that. But basically up until this point here where the flower ends, all of these will be done in red thread. Okay, and then the second half, basically, where you've got the leaves, all of this will be done in green. Okay, so it's just a matter of changing over. All right, now if I want, remember originally when I had great dreams about doing a face cloths that would actually work. Remember we talked about the fact that we'd have our edge, we'd have one row here, let's say the flowers right side up, and then the other set of flowers upside down over here, okay? Well, obviously, I need to be able to do that. So I redid on this side here, okay, the same thing, but this time instead of going from top to bottom, right, I went the opposite way. I started basically from bottom to top, and that gave me the upside down version of it. And again, same thing, right? Now this time, obviously, this part here would be done in red. This part here would obviously be done in green, okay? And then I did my tie-ups here, obviously, based on this this type. I had to change it around because I couldn't use the one that was in the 8-shaft. The 8-shaft book. But again, any book that basically, whether or not it's important to find out whether or not they're doing the loom they're basing it on, the harnesses are going up or if they're going down, because it tells you whether or not you need to change things around for yourself. It's not impossible to do. In fact, it's fairly easy to do. As I said, you're just wherever the spaces are. The empty spaces now we know are all the O's. Well, obviously that's not for my particular. Both of my looms actually. Both of my looms are the same, and they both require X's. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual, let's do a little bit of weaving, and then let's get started on the pattern and see how that goes. Okay, and the same thing as we did before, you're going to have a, you know, a pattern pick, then you're going to do tabby 1, second pattern pick, tabby 2, and then you're just going to go all the way down from that. So I have to I'm going to write up my instructions like I usually do to make sure I keep everything straight, and then we'll get started on the loom. So I've started the flower pattern so far. Before I get to the flower pattern here, I tried actually, because remember I had 16-2 for the warp and the weft, and it was very, very kind of gauzy like. So I thought, well, maybe if I try the weft as 8-2, perhaps that would make it thicker, and it didn't quite work out. So again, my dreams of the face cloths are not going to work out this time around. I'm going to have to obviously use different threads next time. But I decided, obviously, I did some plain weave with a 16-2, and then basically got onto the pattern. So again, started with the green, and again, same thing. So you started with your pattern, your first the green pattern weft, and then I did the first tabby, and then you're going back, you know, second pattern weft, second tabby, and then you're just going back and forth and following, obviously, the pattern. When it comes to an actual change in color, basically what I ended up doing is that right over here I finished with the green, and so basically I can't put it into the next line because it would show with the actual the white tabby pattern. So I actually ended up tucking it into the exact same line. So what I do is I take like the very last thread right here, and then I just basically wind it through whatever that line is, tuck it in, and then actually pull the beater bar so that it is tight enough. The only thing is you got to be careful, so you can see what here, that I have a little bit of a loop. It should have been pulled in a little bit tighter than that. Okay, so that's something that you do need to be wary of. But basically I'm going to continue on with the flower pattern, the red part right now, and then we'll see what it looks like at the end. So I finished flower, as you can see there. I'm happy with it. I do see a lot of the white through it. So what I'm trying to do, somebody had suggested basically that I try and use just some regular DMC floss instead. It is going to be definitely thicker than the 8.2. So if you look at the 8.2 thickness, for example, versus the DMC floss, it is a little bit thicker. So I'm going to try it again and see whether or not it looks a little bit more full. We did try 8.4, if you recall, in a previous video with this one here, and it became more bold, it became a little bit elongated, so I'm not sure if it'll do the same thing in this scenario, but let's try and see. So I finished the second set of flowers. This time I used the DMC floss, as I mentioned earlier. The colors are not exactly the same. It does definitely look bolder because it is thicker. I compared it, actually, the DMC floss, to some other thread that I have, and it resembles a bit like 5.2, to be perfectly honest. This is 8.2, so 5.2 would be obviously a little bit thicker. It is a little bit bolder and so forth. I'd have to say, I don't know which one I like better, to be perfectly honest. It depends on how dainty you want it to look, but I do like the look of the DMC floss. So, and there's, you know, quite a variety of colors, because again, if you're not using a whole lot of it to make a motif, you don't necessarily want to buy an entire cone just to use that unless you already have it, for example, right? So, anyways, I hope that helps, and have yourself a great day.